2-minute webinar, What's New in SolidWorks 2019. My name is Mike, and I will be your host. Just a couple of quick items to point out before we get started. First, in using GoToWebinar, please notice the full screen button to move in and out of full screen mode. We suggest using full screen mode for this presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the questions section, not the chat section. We will answer some of the questions after the 22-minute presentation, and if there are others, we do get a list after and we can contact you at a later date. And please note that you will be able to download a recording of the webinar after this presentation. With that, I wanted to introduce you to our presenter today, who actually needs no introduction, but I'll still do it. It's Mark Schneider, and Mark has been with SolidWorks for over 20 years and works in product introduction. He puts together a lot of the product demos that you may see on the web or from your reseller or at SolidWorks World. Thanks, Mark.
All right, thanks, Mike. We're just going to jump right in. There's a lot of stuff in SolidWorks 2019. I won't be able to show it all, but I'll try to touch on some of the highlights in our short period together here. So without further ado, let's get started here. First thing I want to talk about is performance. So we work on performance every year. We've done it ever since I've been involved with SolidWorks. It's always something that our customers demand and want. This year we did a lot of things with graphics performance. So that's zoom, pan, rotate, especially in your very large assemblies. So let's jump into a quick little demo here of how this actually works. So we've done a lot of things over the years with large assembly mode. So we've used this large assembly mode capability to allow you to work and interrogate and move around a model very quickly, but we do so at the expense of some of the visual appeal. So we remove edges, we remove shadows, we remove real view. A lot of the visual appeal is gone. So if I turn off large assembly mode here and now try to rotate this model around so I get the much better visual appeal, I don't have the level of detail decimation that we normally have with large assembly mode. It's much slower. So this is SolidWorks 2019. And you can see just how fast that is. And one of the things you'll notice is that this is really a feel. You can watch these demos all day long, but in reality, when you rotate a model and it feels chunky, what it is for the gamers out there, they'll understand we're dropping frames to go from point A to point B. And in doing so, it just makes it feel clunky. And you can see on the right is 2019, on the left is 18. You can see the view manipulation, zooming around, rotating the model is just lightning fast. And one of the key benefits here is we're actually pushing a lot of this work up onto the graphics card. So that means that if you buy that high-end graphics card, we're now going to be able to take much more advantage of that high-end graphics card. You can see that the amount of drop frames or the technical stuff that goes along with some of the stuff is actually about 10 times faster in 2019 than it is 18. So it's all your view manipulation, zoom, pan, rotate stuff that's going to be much more responsive. So that's some cool stuff with performance. We'll kind of finish up later on with eDrawings performance as well. But let's jump into another subject, which is large design review. So we have this customer, CFHT, which built this, is actually reworking this whole telescope. And it's a giant telescope with thousands and thousands of parts in it. So one of the things they want to be able to do is they want to be able to open these very fast and do a design review. So one of the things that large design review does, and we've had this capability for years, is allows you to open these assemblies lightning fast. So this assembly has about 8,000 parts in it, or not this one has about 2,000, but you're able to open your assemblies really fast. You have access to the feature manager design tree. You can zoom, pan, rotate really quickly, and kind of interrogate your model, do walkthroughs, zoom, measure. You have measure capabilities in large design review. You can cut cross sections to, help you interrogate your model, dig down deep into it. You can hide components. So this is all capability that's in 2018, the ability to do large design review. In 2019, we've added this new capability that allows you to edit inside of large design review. Can't do all your edits, but you can do a lot of them. You have access to your reference geometry like planes, axes. You have access to mates. You can add mates, delete mates. You can turn on sketches. You can delete components. So I need to get rid of a couple components here. I'm doing a design review. I want to show how it would look with maybe a new pump assembly in there. Just drop in a new pump assembly. We have full capability to add mates. So you're inserting components just like you did in fully resolved mode. You can add your mates. You can't add all your mates, but you can add majority of your standard mates are going to be available here, just as you would before. If you've prepared your assembly with magnetic mates, something we added a couple years ago, the magnetic mates work inside of large design review edit mode. So that's kind of cool. It allows you to build your assembly and get it to where it needs to be. You also have the ability to change configurations. So if you want to change a configuration in this mode, you can do that as well. So this allows you to do that design review, do some light editing work, get what you need on the screen for your design review, and then when you're finished with that, you have the ability to save the assembly. Any of these changes that you made during this editing session will now be there when you open it up fully resolved. So that's kind of cool. You don't have to throw away your work and redo it once the design review is over. So that's some great new capabilities in large design review to help you, get that design review done quickly open assemblies. The other thing with large design review that I find is that if I have a good size assembly, chances are I'm going to open it up in large design review automatically every time, just because it opens up lightning fast. And a lot of times I'm just digging down into a sub-assembly anyway. So open it up in large design review, right click on a component, open that up fully resolved, and make my edits and do some things there. So large design review, if you haven't used it, it is a great capability if you're working with larger assemblies. So assembly delighters, we call these delighters because they tend to be kind of small little enhancements, but these enhancements increase productivity greatly. So they're little small things that just put a smile on your face, the way I kind of think of them. So toolbox, locking the rotation of toolbox components, grouping mates by status, assembly, explode enhancements. Let's take a look at how this works. So this assembly here has 100 mates. You all know that it's easy to accumulate a lot of mates in this in an assembly here. It's actually over 100. We now have this ability to group mates by a status, or I can separate it into fastener folders, or I can do both. So in this case, you can see I have a folder which has 100 solved mates. I have 2 mates that have errors in them. So it's quick and easy for me to interrogate my assembly, find the mates that I need to kind of work with. In this case here, I'm going to redefine that mate because it had a missing reference. Because another component had the same missing reference, Solidworks takes care of that. We added that a couple years ago. Here I'm going to suppress some mates that are over defining the assembly, and those go into a suppressed folder. This is a missing mate because one of the components that is mated to is suppressed. So in that case, I'm just going to delete that. And then if you fix some components and they had mates to them, they go in their own folder because those are basically suppressed as well. So those are some cool things with the grouping of mates. Now, if we look at this toolbox folder, you see there's a whole bunch of toolbox parts, and they all have the little minus sign in front of them. And that means they're underdefined, we didn't lock the rotation. So we had this capability in 2018 to be able to right-click and lock rotation of all concentric mates in that folder. So that capability is there. But now for toolbox, we have this ability to lock rotation of all new concentric mates to toolbox components. So when you insert them, they're already going to be locked. That lock rotation is already going to be turned on. And that is a big time saver for people that like to have their assemblies fully defined. And that's me, for example. I like to have my assemblies fully defined. I don't like those minus signs in front. So those are some cool things. Exploded views. Now, we all know exploded views are a great way to visualize an assembly. You can do animations with them. You can show how something comes apart and goes together. But now in SOLIDWORKS 2019, we've given you a rollback bar right in the configuration manager. So you can drag the rollback bar. It behaves just like the rollback bar in the feature manager. Drag it down, use the arrow key manipulation if you want. That works as well. If you see on this little assembly here, I have this explode step to remove the screws, and it comes after the end cap. Well, we now have the ability to reorder right here in this explode view. And the placement of that reorder is much more intuitive. If we look at that inner washer stack, you can see that those have not been exploded. So using the rollback bar, I come into the explode, the rollback bar is right there. We can add our explode step, and we're just going to explode those out. One of the other things we've had is the ability to rename on the fly that explode step. So you rename that explode step, hit done, and there you go, and you can see that that has been renamed in the tree there. The rollback bar works here just as well as it does in the configuration manager. We also have the ability to suppress explode steps, and that capability is also available once you're outside of the explode editing tool, and you're just working in the configuration manager. So some really cool things there to help you create those explode steps quick and easy. But to create those animations, we've added a whole bunch more capabilities here. My favorite is the MP4. So now I can save these out in MP4, which is a much more modern way of saving out your assembly animations. This works for Animator as well, and Make Controller and all those things. Those ways of saving it is much more efficient and much better quality for saving out your assembly explodes or any of your animations inside of SolidWorks. So those are some cool things for the assembly. Just productivity tools, helps you get your job done better and interacting with your assemblies. So some cool stuff there for assembly delighters. So for user experience, we always do things to make the user experience a lot better. And we talked about the delighters for some of these are small little things, but these things make you more productive on a day-to-day measure. So when you want to access your designs faster, we have the recent documents. We'll talk about that. External references, we've done some cool new things for that, and the live measure command is another cool feature. So we have the welcome screen. We've added this a couple years ago. Go to the recent documents. You now have the ability to have up to 100 recent documents. This got a big cheer from a lot of people at some of the reseller rollouts that I went to. Some people like to have a lot of documents in there. You have filters in here, so you can filter by drawings, you can filter by parts, assemblies, whatever. The other thing that's interesting is you have a search, so you can filter by name. In this case here, we want to search for camera, and it's quick and easy to find the assembly or the part or whatever that you're looking for. So you get that, excuse me, get that open in its own window. And one of the things you'll notice is with external references. So we've changed the way the external references look and work. You now have the ability right there to lock or break an external reference. You don't have to go into the dialog to do that. It's right there on the reference visualization tool. The other thing is we've done a lot of work with how we organize this. So for the whole top level, I can view all the external references for this assembly. We've changed this. It's much more cleaner and intuitive of how to work. You can see how each of those items that have external references behave. You can use the isolate command. So if you wanted to say, hey, I'm going to work on this rear baffle plate, I need to find out what these external references are. You can isolate that and dig in. In this case here, you can see that circular pattern is referencing something outside of what we have displayed on the screen. So we can break that one there, just break that external reference, close that down, and then obviously we want to be able to repair that. So in this case here, we'll just change that circular reference and define it to be, use the reference the outside of the part itself. So basically remove that external reference from that particular item. Exit the isolate command, and there you have that information that is unavailable. So the other thing we want to talk about is measure. We've had measure. Measure's always been available inside of SolidWorks since I can remember. But in this case here, we're going to access the measure tool while we're inside of another command. So here I want to measure the distance between these two faces, but maybe I didn't measure it first. I'm inside the modify command. I need that to be at least 50 millimeters long. So measure that up. How much do I need to take off of this plate here to make whatever I have fit inside of my model? So that's some cool stuff to allow the measure command to be live at all times while you're inside of command. So some really cool stuff there. And again, these are just ease of use tools for your everyday workflow type of things. Let's talk about some part delighters. So in this case here, we know that a lot of customers have begun to work with a lot of mesh geometry. So we've done a lot of things with the workflows for working with mesh geometry and some surface modeling and some other part colliders that we'll talk about. So in this case here, you see I have kind of an ergonomic handle here that that we're using. And the way this model started is it started from a mesh model, in this case, a 3D MF file. So this was scanned in from some scanner, and you can see that we've imported mesh information for a while, but you can see this is a mesh model. Basically, it's just the outside triangulation of that model. But we want to be able to turn this into a solid model that we can manufacture. So we've added this new capability called slicing. Slicing allows you to define a number of planes, an offset, and then it creates the intersection curves in there. It also creates this nice folder full of planes and sketches that you can, there's just sketches and planes that you can change and manipulate like anything else. In this case here, I will hide the mesh body and just use standard SolidWorks modeling capabilities to loft between all those curves. So I was able to take that mesh, slice it up, turn it into in this case, a surface model that I can continue to work on. Speaking of working on it, I'm going to split it. Maybe we want to have this split into two separate bodies. Maybe I want to put a logo on the side or a projected curve on the side. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'm just going to drag in a sketch. This is a sketch block basically. Place that onto my model. And I want to project that onto those two faces. Now this sketch here has two open contours. So in this case, we have the ability now to choose two faces, bidirectional, and place that projected curve on there. So that would have taken actually two sketches in SolidWorks 2018 and 4 projected curves, because we didn't support previously the ability to do multiple surfaces at once and multiple open and closed sketches. This capability here is delete hole. So we've had delete hole inside of SolidWorks, but it wasn't really discoverable, let's put it that way. You hit an edge and hit delete, and it would allow you to delete the hole. Now it's a kind of a real citizen. It is it has its own icon and it has its own property manager. Here I'm going to do a quick interference detection and see I have an interference between that cable and the side of my part. So I'm going to need to remove some material. We'll edit that part, and I'm just going to chamfer that edge. Well, I don't really want to chamfer the whole edge. I only want to chamfer part of it. So we now have the ability to do a partial edge chamfer and fillets. This works for fillets as well. I can use various offset conditions, or you can choose a distance offset, a percentage offset, or just drag the little handles on the screen. Works for asymmetrical fillets and chamfers, or regular symmetrical fillets and chamfers. So that's kind of a cool little tool, the partial chamfer and fillet. Let's open up this little grip here. And, a lot of people have these detailed little features that are on there, but there's, I don't know, 15 features that are there to define that. That's a lot of work. We've now have this ability to make this a lot easier. So you can see dimples and bumps, in this case, a logo. Let's show you how we applied those without having to actually do the model. So this is what we call 3D textures. So in reality, I'm just dragging and dropping in an appearance. So an appearance from my appearance pane there, change the size, change the angle, however I want to position that onto that particular model. And then we'll use the 3D texture button. So I choose which image I want to project on there. I can choose an element size. I can choose an offset distance, how far I want that to be poking out, those little knurls there. I can invert that to make it kind of dimples. So that works pretty well. And what this does is it creates a mesh model. Mesh models are ready to go, ready for 3D printing, and you can continue to do some work on it. But a lot of people just want a quick and easy way to model that, to get that texture on there without having to actually model it. So that's pretty cool stuff for slicing, partial fillet chamfers and fillets. We did the delete hole, which is pretty cool there, because it made it more of I call it a real citizen. It's not a hidden feature. And then the 3D texture stuff, which allows you to get to get that shape or get that texture onto your model very, very quickly and easily. Tab and slot, I'll go through this real quick. We've added tab and slot a couple years ago. We've added the ability to have unequal offsets, which is something that a lot of people ask for. We've added the ability to have sharp corner, which we had before, but you can also do filleted corners. You can also do chamfered corners, circular corners, and this is one of those enhancements that a lot of people really just wanted to have. The other thing too is in the past, in 2018, if you created a blind tab, it created a blind slot as well, but that's not really what people wanted. They wanted to be able to have a through cut for the slot so that they could weld that closed, and that's cool. The other thing we've also added is circular tabs as well, circular tabs and slots. We can also link them together, so you have multiple together, make change to one, they all change together, so that's kind of a nice little feature. I'm getting close on my time here, Mike, but I got two more things to do, brother. eDrawings. Let's take a look at eDrawings, some cool stuff here. Configuration support. I'm actually going to jump right into the demo here. So eDrawings is a great tool for viewing and manipulating your models, but we've extended this for 2019 to make it your go-to CAD viewer for all things. So now you can view Parasolid files, Solid Edge files, ACES files, JT files, NX files, in addition to all the other file capabilities that we had in the past. I'm going to open up this native SolidWorks assembly and take a look at the configurations. Now, in the past, we were able to view configurations in eDrawings, but you had to save it as an EASM, EPRT to be able to view those. Now you can view native configurations in native SolidWorks files, so you don't have to do that extra step of creating an extra file. This is really cool. The eDrawings Web HTML. So I'm just going to export that model to eDrawings Web HTML. This is a single file, an HTML document. It opens in any browser. You don't need to have ActiveX control, Internet Explorer. You can send this to anybody, and they can open it in any browser. No installation, no nothing's requirement. You got access to the feature tree, configurations. You got a cool little explode view there. You got access to all your sectioning tools if you want to take a look at how to section a model. But this is any browser. This is really cool because I can send one of these to somebody. They don't have to have eDrawings installed. They don't have to have anything special. All your viewing tools are there. You even have ambient occlusion if you want to turn on ambient occlusion to get a more realistic model. Let's take a look at eDrawings performance. On the left, we have 18. On the right, we have 19. Same telescope assembly that we had before. So you can see as I drag my mouse, I pick and drag, it takes a while for it to catch up. And then you see some of the decimation of removal of geometry as we rotate around. And we do that to increase the performance. So, that's done by design to increase the performance. But you kind of do that at, the expense of the visual appeal and the feel of it. You can see on the right, 2019, everything is lightning fast. And again, I mentioned before in the other performance stuff is that this is really about, it's about, a feel. This is something that you can watch in a demo and it looks great in a demo, but until you actually feel this, it's really a much more dramatic feel to how you're able to manipulate a model on the screen and actually show what's going on. So I think that's pretty cool with eDrawings performance. We got the new file type supported. We got configuration support, save as HTML. This is something, give it a try, because this is something that I'm really pretty jazzed about, because you can share your 3D models, send them an email. All somebody's got to do is open it up, and it opens up in any browser. No installation is required. And then the improved performance. So eDrawing should be your go-to tool for viewing CAD files. It really is a pretty powerful tool that way. Finally, the last thing I want to do is talk about extended reality. This is AR and VR, so augmented reality and virtual reality together. So we've added a new capability to make this much easier. Today, in SolidWorks 2018, if you wanted to take your model, say this telescope, and get it into your VR viewer, do some walkthroughs or whatever, it's pretty painful. It's you got to export it in this format, take it into that format, do a couple of things here, reapply your textures and whatnot. Now we've done that. What we've done is we've made that a lot simpler. So in this case here we have our telescope. And what we want to be able to do is actually take this into a VR viewer. So all we need to do in eDrawings is open in VR. So if your viewer works on your laptop and you have eDrawings loaded, you will be able to do this. You will be able to just file open in assembly in VR. You can use the little controllers there. When you click on the controller, it'll actually jump you to that position. You can walk upstairs. You can stand on the edge of a platform and look down. Trust me, it can be, it's very realistic. I'm one of those people that kind of feels a little queasy when I do too much VR type of work. But one of the things that we did with this capability in eDrawings, building on that performance, is we've increased that frame rate so dramatically high that personally, I don't feel queasy when I walk through, say, that telescope or anything else. The other thing too is you can now, out of eDrawings, save as this extended reality format, so you can take it into any other VR builder, AR builder that you might want to use to create your extended reality type of environment. So those are some really cool things with what we call extended reality. That's AR and VR, allowing you to use SolidWorks eDrawings to jump right into your model, put on your headset, and start visualizing it, and then also export it as well. So I went a little bit over. I apologize for that. If you want more, there's a lot more information. Go to solidworks.com/product/what's-new. There's a lot of videos that are up here. There's a lot more information about what's there. Obviously, if you can access the What's New PDF document and read a couple hundred pages worth of all the enhancements that we did. We had a very short time here to do this. So Mike, I guess I'm done with my end here.
Great. Yeah. I guess we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, let me take a look at some of these questions, see if I can't answer some on the fly. Obviously, we're over here, so if we have any questions that we're unable to answer, we will get back with you. In design review, do I have access to Make Controller? No, you don't have access to Make Controller in Large Design Review, but you do have access to, with Make Controller, you have the access, you have the ability to save those as AVIs. So you can save those as AVIs. And then you have that video to do as well. Graphics card brand and spec. Talk to your reseller about that, because we support a lot of graphics cards. Typically, in the past, your reseller may say, yeah, buy this card. If you buy the super high-end card, you're probably not going to get that much benefit. That's not the case anymore. So with the new graphics performance stuff, we're pushing so much more work up onto the graphics card that you can now take advantage. So if you're in the market for a new graphics card, talk to your reseller and get a recommendation to see what their thoughts are. For the most part, it's going to be NVIDIA and AMD. Both of those cards, we're able to leverage that. We're using I don't want to get too wonky, but we're using a bunch of OpenGL latest toolkits for doing a lot of that work. When will XR be available? I apologize for that. That's SP2. So that capability will be available in SolidWorks 2019 SP2. It's not available today. Great question. Question, anything new and different with SolidWorks CAM? There's a whole lot. Go to this webpage that's on the screen. There's a whole bunch of there's a couple of CAM videos that are there, and they go through a whole bunch of enhancements that were added for SolidWorks CAM. Sheet metal, is there anything besides sheet metal? Yeah, there's some new ways to configurable bend table information that is there. Again, there's more information that's in the What's New document, the What's New PDF that's available.
All right, I think we have time for one more.
me see here. How did you magnify the edge when mating the part so quickly? I'm not sure which one that one was. That might have been when we used the magnifier, the little magnifier on screen. So that's a cool tool we've added. Oh my goodness, that's a long time ago. Hit the G key on your keyboard and you get a little magnifying glass pops up, and you can still zoom inside the magnifying glass too. And it's a really cool thing. As soon as you click outside the magnifying glass, it goes away. So that's a cool little thing, the magnifier. Just hit the G key on your keyboard.
All right, thanks, Mark, and thank you everyone for attending, and we'll take a look at some of these other questions offline. Thanks again, and have a great